Before I start and before I do an official welcome as a head of school does, I want to give you just a story to give you a little insight on me. So just down the road from here, and I know we have St. Louis or even former St. Louis parishioners in this room, down the street from St. Louis Church, there's a beautiful cloistered order of nuns, the Poor Clares. Well, in 1977, the Poor Clares hadn't moved into their formal home that they're in now. They were in temporary lodgings on St. Louis Parish boundaries, just within the walking distance. When I say walking, right next to the playground of the school. Me and all the students would try to peek over the fence to see those Poor Clare nuns and figure out what was happening. Well, in 1977, we were all assembled into the multi-purpose room sitting on the floor, and we were shown, and I'm going to show my age along with all of you, the reel-to-reel movie of a look at the life of a Poor Clare nun. And we watched and saw, of course, the beautiful gifts of their life to this 8-year-old. They weren't allowed to talk for a lot of the day. Prayer throughout the day. Obviously, very simple living. And when that movie finished, we were told to go home that night and in our evening prayers to pray to God about your vocation, because maybe you might have a vocation to the Poor Clares. Well, I did. This was a very serious thing to ask. I went home, I sat down at night, and I said, God, please do not give me a vocation to the Poor Clares. As far as I was concerned, my garden was not going to be cloistered and certainly was not going to keep me from talking. I see it, God laughed, I'm sure, at that time, because he was like, yeah, that's fine, but you're going to serve. I've got it for you. If you're not going to keep your mouth shut, I'm going to keep you busy. This was an early opportunity to begin my very simple and unknowing conversation with God about my vocation, my path. Where was I planted? How would I bloom? So there's my little insight into me. And so now I want to welcome you to Bishop Ireton. And it feels funny to say welcome now that you've already been here and heard two beautiful presentations from two people who have been here and served this institution with tremendous love. But as Bishop Ireton's head of school, I would be remiss not to welcome you. God smiled and planted me here with the Bishop Ireton campus. And some might think that was 5 years ago if you're just reading that booklet. But as Brother Dan said, I was really planted here about 41 years ago when I entered this building for the first time to attend an 8th grade Model United Nations event and was placed in a Security Council session competition next to a young man named Jeff McNutt. I was the United Kingdom, he was USSR. I thought he was really cocky, and gosh darn it if he didn't win that whole event. We've now been married for 30 years. It will be 31 in June, with 5 beautiful children who are our greatest gifts. I have 2 wonderful son-in-laws, both graduates of Bishop Ireton. One son-in-law to be, also a graduate of Bishop Ireton High School. We have a whole lot of furry pets, a dog, 3 grand dogs, a grand cat, who keep us in caretaker mode at home now that we are pseudo-empty nesters. And knowing that my garden space will probably morph and change containers and grow many times over in the years to come, as it already has. God blessed me from the start with a well-fertilized, beautiful garden. Loving parents who are here today. Where are you, Mom and Dad? I got to recognize them. You can't not recognize your parents. 2 younger brothers, 2 younger sisters. I even have a sister in this room today. Where are you, Bridget? I got to call you out too. There she is. Love, care, faith, family, surrounded by a wonderful community and great neighborhoods. Beautiful faith, family, church. The gardens of my life have been colorful, vibrant, with room to grow and to bloom. And so why do I say gardens, plural? As a young girl and even through adolescence and adulthood, I'd heard the term and sang the song, bloom where you're planted. 80s and 70s, right? Bloom, bloom, bloom where you're planted. Sister Ambrose from St. Mary's Academy, where I went to high school, would bring us up to an area in the school that she called the mustard seed and would have us sing that song. I sang and I visualized a garden, and I understood blooming to mean making the best of whatever situation I was given. And I think I was on track there. But I was also envisioning that each one of us got one garden, just one place to bloom. And whether it was a big, generous garden, a simple garden, or a dry, weed-infested garden, or a mix, we were given that one garden, one path, our vocation, and we needed to do our best and bloom just there. But I was missing some very important points that I believe St. Francis de Sales was trying to teach us through that simple phrase. The first, and you've heard about this through the last 3 talks, who the gardener was. At that time as a teenager, I wasn't truly realizing that God was the gardener, the planter, the creator of the garden, the cultivator of the garden, the hand to guide, the support, and the way to bloom. There he is, ready to do the work. Our job is to bloom. The second point that I think St. Francis was teaching that I didn't quite get at the time was that God's plan is so much greater than one garden. Just think Home Depot. So many options in pots and window planters and containers and garden beds. Through God's plan, we too will have, or most likely have bloomed to be transplanted or repotted into a new container, a new situation, to grow and to bloom again. Honestly, I think the pandemic was an example of how every pot at Home Depot got just dumped out and turned back up. I think because I was blessed from birth into a beautiful, vibrant, well-fertilized garden, God, the great gardener, needed me, and really any of you that are in that same position, to be transplanted or repotted in various ways throughout our lives. Certainly to help growth in others, but especially to appreciate and not take for granted the beautiful work of blooming, and that it all stems from the grace of God. We do that in each place, in each pot. So because I don't have a green thumb in real life, I do not. You could ask my children, look in my office, I don't. I referred to a blog, students would be proud of me, to review the steps to repot a plant. Number 1, remove the plant from its current garden or planter. Number 2, Turn the plant sideways. Number 3, hold it gently. Number 4, loosen the roots. Number 5, put it into the new container, add new soil and water. Number 6, watch it bloom. Repotting, planting, and think of God doing each of those things in your life. This visual may help explain why we can bloom at some times and struggle at others. Think of the loosening of that soil, the mess, wherever Father Kevin is. God's plan for me, has involved a lot of repotting. God's been busy. Whether it was college, I remember feeling displaced, trying to get comfortable in a new space. God was repotting me, turning me sideways, holding me gently, adding new soil, new experiences, and it took a while to bloom. My first teaching job, God really turned me sideways for that one. I remember the weeks and months of tears, wondering what I'd gotten myself into, and yet calling me to bloom. Getting married, becoming a mother 5 times over, God transplanted me to a new garden this time, and this time my blooms directly impacted the growth and the blooms right around me. Full-time teaching and administrative work, in addition to being a mom and a wife. This time, he pulled out those roots, allowing for greater growth, new growth. Challenging teen years, and I'm not talking about my teen years, I'm talking about parenting 5 through teenage years. Pandemic, working through it, figuring it out, blooming in a pandemic, helping a school bloom through a pandemic, pulling the roots, putting us back in the pot. Sudden health changes of aging in-laws. That's a whole different pot and container. Empty nesting. A beautiful new pot ready for more growth. These are my life changes, the times when I've seen God transplant me, giving me new opportunities to bloom, even amidst challenges and pains and struggles and angst. And yet each time to bloom was a reminder that I was hearing God's call and I was part of his plan, and that the vocation isn't one thing. Each one of you sitting here has your own life changes, whatever that is. Your garden and your own experiences of being in one big garden or being repotted, transplanted, and being given the opportunity by God through his gentle holding to bloom. What an amazing thought. If we let God do the planting, give up some of life's control, which if you're like me is not easy to do. Our job is to bloom where we're planted. No matter what our start looks like, no matter what stage of life we're in, no matter how old we are. Embrace where you are in life right now, whatever container or garden that might be. Choose to be content and trust God's plan for you as it morphs and grows. Focus your energy on being deeply rooted by deepening your relationship with God and seeking him daily. That's what we try to do here every day with our students. Prepare to bloom by actively seeking opportunities that will help you flourish in God's glorious garden, prepared especially for you, just yours. And then bloom with confidence that God will be with you and shine through you. I'm the short talk today, probably trying to wrap things up. Hard to do from two beautiful speakers prior. So I ended today with a song of reflection that you will see. As an educator and a mother, it's only fitting that it include the voice of children. My prayer for you as you listen is that you will feel gratitude for God, our glorious gardener, and that you ask him to be with you today and always in a special way, thinking of one new way in which you can bloom in whatever garden container you're in this stage of life. So from this Bishop Ireton, head of school, go Cardinals. Advance always, but always live Jesus. Thank you very much.
There are times when you might feel aimless. You can't see the places where you belong. But you will find that there is a purpose. It's been there within you all along.
And when you're near it, you can almost hear it.
It's like a symphony. Just keep listening, and pretty soon you'll start to figure out your part. Everyone plays a piece, and there are melodies. Each one of us. Oh, it's glorious.
You will know how to let it ring out as you discover who you are. Others around you start to wake up to the sounds that are in their hearts.
It's so amazing what we're all creating.
It's like a symphony. Just keep listening, and pretty soon you'll start to figure out your part. Everyone plays a piece, and there are melodies. Each one of us. Oh, it's glorious. Glorious, glorious, glorious.
That you feel and not spill. It's like a symphony. Just keep listening, and pretty soon you'll start to figure out your part.